So the theories were correct. Trigun Stampede was all a massive prequel. I think the only thing that was kind of lingering for me to even accept the idea of this being a prequel, and obviously now it seems like episode 12 is confirming that, was Meryl. Meryl didn't seem like, at least again, this is my old memory of watching the original Trigun anime, and like, I don't remember really any of it. Most of it anyways. I don't remember Meryl knowing Vash, so that was my only hang-up. So the only way that I could explain that is if they have some convenient Meryl hits her head and has amnesia, and so she never remembers Vash whenever they get to the next part. And so yes, we have already confirmed Trigun's going into a final stage, so there is apparently more anime coming. So maybe, again, it's going to be going into what at least I remember of the original series, going forward, having Meryl with, yes, Millie. I can now say that name and people shouldn't get mad because, yes, Millie is now here. Meryl with Millie and them being a part of this insurance society group and going around and issuing insurance claims while Vash is running around and being goofy. But we'll see. Again, technically, the mood and everything has shifted so much with Trigun Stampede versus, again, my perspective, the original anime adaptation. I've never read the manga. But yeah, good episode. Good episode. And I think a lot of it's just the fact that I got the confirmation that Millie at least exists. That just made me super happy. I'm like, Thompson, yes, they're doing it. They're doing it. Here we go. But no, really good episode. I can't say that I feel extremely satisfied with what they kind of concluded with Vash versus Knives in the end. It really it had a fun little kind of punchline to it, because you have this whole massive build up where, yes, Knives is pulling in all this information from the other side. He's trying to tack into the core on the other side in this higher dimension. And then you have Millie screaming out, causes Vash, I don't know if it's caused him to, but Vash remembers Rem, remembers that Rem, this entire time, Rem was the one that said that she wanted to protect Vash. It wasn't Knives. And then when he breaks out of the whole thing, because that inconsistency is what I'm kind of gathering there, when he finally breaks out of it, yes, we have the old Vash hair comes up. He apparently zapped himself so his hair stands straight up, and suddenly he's the Vash style that we all kind of know and we're wanting. But it kind of turns into this little conflict between Vash and Knives, as Vash is trying to get away with all this energy that he's kind of recondensed back into this little cube. Knives wants it so that he can start his whole plans and wants to get back into the gate. And as they're running away, it just kind of gives that sense of Vash still wanting to protect the people around him, while Knives is like, they're different, they're going to keep abusing us, we need to break out of this. But I think the cool thing that came out of it, as you have them kind of rushing around and fighting each other, and eventually Vash goes to blast it out into space. When it all builds up to that point, I think the cool thing that kind of popped out and jumped out at me was the aspect that Knives, in the end, in those final moments, as he's reaching for that cube, he's screaming what he thinks Vash is thinking. We always get the sense that Vash is the one that's afraid. Vash is the one that needs to be protected. Vash is the one that's scared. But it's always been Knives. Knives says he wants to build a place with no pain, no fear, a paradise for us. It's not Vash. He's building it for himself. It's never been about Vash. He's been using Vash and protecting him, trying to do everything to protect him, but it almost gives a sense right here that he's trying to do it for himself. It's never been about Vash. He'd be willing to destroy Vash. I mean, he was doing that. Like, this whole process was turning Vash into a plant. He was turning him into a lifeless husk. He'd have no care for Vash. In the end, it was all about himself. He wanted to create this new world. He wanted to destroy all of humanity. He wanted to do all this stuff. It's never been about Vash. Now, there is a bond there. I think there's still a bond there. I'm not saying that Million Knives doesn't care about Vash at all. He still cares for him. They're sort of like siblings. But again, like I was joking about in the last video, there's been a conflict between the two of them ever since they crashed the spaceships. But like I said, the cool thing here is that it really does feel like Knives is the one that's scared. He wants to create this new world. He wants to get rid of these nasty humans that have been putting them through hell this entire time. But it got a funny punchline. Like, despite all that stuff, I do like the fact they still put a Vash joke in here. Like, despite all this tension that's building up, this big battle that's happening, all this fighting, this big, huge super beam that he's shooting off, in the end, when Knives asks him, This isn't a good thing. The humans will continue to use us. And Vash, yes, asks, when did we get so different? At what point were we so different? But no, Knives says they're going to come after you again. They're just going to keep coming after you. They keep hunting you down. Why do you like them? He says, that's okay. I'll just keep running. If they chase me, I'll just keep running, and I'll run, and I'll run, and then once things settle down, I'll sneak in and settle down with them again. And Knives is like, you've had a whole century, and that's all you could come up with? Like, Knives has been... Again, Knives has been building up this big plot. He wants to get rid of the humans. He knows how to make things work for them. He can create a whole bunch of independents that don't need anything. A perfect race. And Vash's opinion is, no, we shouldn't do that. I'll just go in there, they'll attack me, I'll run away, and then I'll come back after things settle down. That's his mood. Again, it's so Vash. It is so Vash. Like I said, in the end, despite how much this has changed, that's Vash. That's the Vash I know. That's the Vash I remember. And it was a good fight. I think overall it was fine. There was some parts where the camera's like way out here and it's just panning around to them kind of running into buildings and jumping off stuff. At some point it just felt blah. Like it just felt lifeless. It was good because you just don't really see this kind of stuff in CGI animation, and it's a lot of stuff. Like them coming through that door and then crashing through the window at that point and leaving the laboratory. It was really cool. I do love a lot of the effects and the panning shots and stuff. It just, at some point, it just felt lifeless. And that's just me being overly critical. I know, don't get me wrong. It's not like I hate this episode, but I just feel like still there's little points where it almost feels like they just get lifeless with the animation. It just turns into a panning a location and just little object moving around. But now, obviously, the meat and the potatoes of this episode was the time jump. 2 years later, Meryl shows up at the crater of July, and they've pinned it all on Vash. The interesting thing here is Zazie shows up. And Zazie specifically says, what was the point in pinning it on Vash? It's not technically the wording like that. What's the point in making Vash the villain or something like that? It almost indicated like she was saying that Meryl did it. I don't think Meryl did it. I don't think Meryl went back and reported that Vash destroyed everything. It's probably July. They probably just blame it on him. There's a crater over here. Blame it on Vash. We don't know what happened. Just blame it on Vash. He's the scapegoat, basically. I don't think Meryl herself did it. But again, the way that it's worded, at least in the translation, it almost sounds like it's pinning on Meryl. Meryl would not do that. I don't see Meryl doing that. But yes, Zazie brings up the very big thing, and it sort of indicated at the very end as well, is that the twins made this bridge across the void, which insinuates this idea that shooting off that beam, I guess, is the bridge, but mainly indicating that there is this group from Earth that is coming that way. Makes sense saying they arrived over the wall of light. So there's this traveling spaceship, and later on, like I said, it kind of indicates it being Project Pieces of Earth. So we have Project Seeds, and we have Project Pieces of Earth. But the interesting thing is, and again, this is me speculating based on having barely any memory of the original anime adaptation, having no knowledge of the manga, sort of indicates that whoever is a part of this group isn't independent. It says Special Operations Lieutenant Colonel Independent Chronica. So is this person named Chronica, and they are an independent, and they're leading this group? And what is the Pieces of Earth rather than the Seeds? Because seeds, like we've already kind of mentioned, is all of these plants. Whereas Pieces of Earth means that they're taking chunks of Earth. I mean, that would make sense. I mean, what they're trying to do in these green rooms in this planet right now, at least what Luigi is doing, she's trying to create plant life. And so maybe this is just a chunk of plant life. They can just kind of lay it down. But we'll see. But yes, they, of course, kind of noted that Project Seeds is here and they're going to come there. So, but specifically, Zazie's warning, like, this is a bad thing. Like, this group isn't a good thing. And again, could that be because they're a bunch of independents? That's the question mark. But yes, as Meryl is leaving, she gets a call from headquarters saying that she's screwing around and that they're going to end up relocating her and send her off to the Insurance Society, which again, for me, with the original anime, I remember that was what Meryl was working. Meryl was working with Millie at an insurance company, and that was the whole shtick for Meryl. So it kind of leads it up to the original anime that I remember, having Meryl and Millie doing that. And then yes, we get a brief shot of somebody named Eric's not remembering anything, which looks like it's obviously Vash, because he's got the same hair, it's kind of come down a little bit, and he's missing an arm. So it kind of indicates that this is Vash, he's forgotten everything. He looked broke. I don't think Knives is dead. It didn't show enough that Knives disintegrated into nothing. It just kind of showed him getting kind of muscly and then disappears. So I'm sure Knives is still around. But yeah, good ending overall. Again, and knowing that there's going to be a next part coming up soon has me really excited. I think the conclusion of this whole segment really did get my hopes up for the series. Not that I had a problem with the series. It's been a good series. Just not a series that I'm hyped for. I did get a kick out of it. It felt like they kept changing their mind where they wanted to have certain characters. I like how you have Nicholas leaves July. Like, he leaves July. Leaves way out there. And then at some point, he just goes, oh, wait, I have to be there so I can save Meryl. And so he just suddenly teleports back in. Like, he leaves and then he comes back in to save Meryl. It's like, did you guys just change your mind where you wanted Nicholas and then you realized you needed somebody to save Meryl, so you just teleport him back in? It was a little bit funny. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the finale of Trigun Stampede. Pretty decent. Again, I feel a little bit let down on the fight between Vash and Knives, but in the end, it's not over. This isn't it. This isn't it. They're not going to find a conclusion here. And I think that was a pretty decent little kind of push for Vash to really kind of push back against Knives. This really is the first time where he really did lift up and raise out his claws to his brother. And I think that's a huge changing point for Vash. Now, granted, now he's broken, so we'll have to see how it comes back out of that being broken. But in the end, it was a solid finale, and the good thing overall of this is it has me excited for more, and that's a big deal. So anyways, that's my thoughts on the finale of Trigun Stampede. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what you thought of this finale. Are you excited for Millie coming back? Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you got my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I greatly appreciate if you consider supporting us on Patreon, our tips link, or super thanks, or becoming a member of the channel. I greatly appreciate what it does, and y'all take care.